My beloved child, before you let your attention drift somewhere else, stay here with me for just a moment. Slow down. Let the noise around you fade into the background. Let the endless demands, the unfinished thoughts, and the weight you have been carrying rest quietly for a little while. There is something I want you to understand, and it begins with a question that has been stirring deep within your heart, even if you have never spoken it aloud. Why are you here? Why did your eyes stop at this exact moment? Why did these words find you today instead of yesterday, or next week, or some other time? You may think it was random. You may tell yourself it was coincidence. You may believe you simply happened to arrive here. But my child, I want you to know that there are moments in life that carry more meaning than they first appear to hold. There are moments that seem ordinary on the surface but are quietly wrapped in something sacred. This is one of those moments. I know how quickly life moves. I know how often you scroll past things without a second thought. I know how many voices compete for your attention every day. Yet somehow, out of all the places you could be and all the things you could be doing, you are here, right now, reading these words, listening with a heart that may be tired, uncertain, or searching for answers. And that is not something I want you to dismiss too quickly. Because long before this moment arrived, I saw it. Long before your worries filled your mind, before your disappointments weighed upon your shoulders, before you wondered if anyone truly understood what you were carrying, I knew this moment would come. I knew where you would be. I knew what questions would live inside your heart. I knew the silent battles you would never tell anyone about. And I knew there would come a day when you would need a reminder that you are not walking through life alone. My child, there is a reason your spirit feels drawn here. There is a reason something inside you hesitated before moving on. There is a reason these words seem to reach deeper than ordinary words. Because this is not merely information. This is an invitation. An invitation to pause. An invitation to listen. An invitation to remember that I am closer than you think. You have spent so much time trying to make sense of everything around you. You have searched for explanations. You have wondered why certain doors closed, why some prayers seemed delayed, why certain chapters of your life unfolded the way they did. Sometimes you have looked at your circumstances and felt confused. Sometimes you have looked ahead and felt uncertain. Sometimes you have wondered whether there was a greater purpose hidden beneath everything you could not understand. And today, before I reveal anything else, I want to awaken your attention to one simple truth. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not lost in a crowd of billions of people. I know your name. I know your story. I know the thoughts you carry when no one else is around. I know the questions that visit you late at night. I know the moments when you smiled for others while your heart quietly carried burdens no one could see. And because I know you so deeply, I also know exactly when to reach for your attention. Timing matters, my child. There are conversations that happen too early and are missed. There are truths spoken too soon that cannot yet be received. But there are also moments when the heart becomes ready. Moments when the noise begins to settle. Moments when the soul becomes open enough to hear what it desperately needs. That is why I am asking you not to rush away from this moment. Not because I wish to burden you. Not because I wish to demand something from you. But because there is a reason I have brought you here. There is a reason your heart feels a gentle pull to stay. There is a reason this moment feels different. Hidden beneath the surface of everything you can see is something you cannot yet fully understand. A purpose you have not yet recognized. A message you have not yet fully heard. A reminder your soul has been longing for more than you realize. And as this journey begins, I want you to hold on to one thought. You are not here by accident. You are not here because of luck. You are not here because the universe randomly placed you in the path of these words. You are here because love knows how to find you. You are here because grace knows how to reach you. You are here because even when you could not see my hand guiding you, I was still leading you step by step toward this divine appointment. So stay close, my child. Quiet your fears. Lay down your assumptions. Open your heart just a little wider, because there is more happening in this moment than you can see, and the reason you are here is more beautiful than you can imagine. And now, my child, before you discover why this moment matters so deeply, I need you to understand something about the weight you have been carrying, because the reason your heart paused here is not only about where I am leading you, it is also about where you have been. I know how tired you are. Perhaps not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind that disappears after a quiet weekend or a few extra hours of rest. I am speaking about the deeper exhaustion, the kind that settles into the soul, the kind that follows you into the morning and remains with you long after the day is over. You have been carrying more than most people realize. You have been carrying responsibilities, expectations, disappointments, and unanswered questions. You have been carrying memories you rarely talk about and worries you rarely share. Some days you smile because it feels easier than explaining what is really happening inside. Some days you tell people you are fine because you no longer know how to describe the heaviness in your heart. And little by little, the weight has grown, not all at once, but one burden at a time, one disappointment at a time, one silent struggle at a time. I know about the moments when you felt strong on the outside but fragile on the inside. I know about the pressure you place upon yourself, the pressure to keep going, the pressure to hold everything together, the pressure to be the dependable one, the understanding one, the patient one, even when your own heart is crying out for comfort. There have been days when your mind felt crowded with thoughts that never seemed to stop. Days when you replayed conversations, worried about the future, questioned your decisions, and wondered whether things would ever become lighter. There have been nights when your body was still but your thoughts refused to rest. Nights when you stared into the darkness carrying concerns you could not easily put into words. I know those moments, my child. I was there for every one of them. I know about the hidden pain you rarely allow others to see, the disappointments you quietly buried, the hopes that did not unfold the way you expected, the prayers you whispered while wondering if anyone was listening. I know how discouragement sometimes arrives without warning. I know how emotional fatigue can make even simple things feel difficult. There are seasons when your heart becomes so weary that even hope feels heavy to carry. Not because you have stopped believing, not because you have stopped trying, but because you have been fighting silent battles for so long. Battles that nobody applauds, battles that nobody notices, battles that happen entirely within the private spaces of your heart. You have carried grief over things that changed. You have carried sadness over things that never happened. You have carried regret over mistakes you wish you could undo. You have carried fear about what tomorrow might bring. And sometimes all of those emotions become tangled together until you no longer know which feeling hurts the most. You only know that you are tired, deeply tired, soul tired. There have been moments when you felt surrounded by people and still felt alone. Moments when you longed for someone to truly understand what was happening beneath the surface. Because not every wound leaves visible marks. Not every burden can be explained in a conversation. Some struggles remain hidden behind ordinary routines, hidden behind responsibilities, hidden behind polite smiles, hidden behind the words, "I am doing okay." But my child, I see beyond all of that. I see the hidden weight. I see the emotional fatigue. I see the silent struggle. I see the tears that never fell because you were trying so hard to stay strong. I see the questions you carry when no one else is listening. I see the weariness you have learned to hide even from yourself. And I want you to know something before we go any further. You do not have to convince me that your pain is real. You do not have to explain why you are exhausted. You do not have to justify the heaviness you feel. I already know. I have always known. Every burden, every fear, every hidden ache, every silent cry, none of it has escaped my sight, not for a single moment. And because you have carried these burdens for so long, my child, something else has quietly happened inside your heart. Little by little, without even realizing it, you began believing certain things about yourself that were never meant to become part of your story. The pain did not simply make you tired. The disappointment did not simply make you sad. The waiting did not simply test your patience. Over time, these experiences began whispering messages to your heart. Not loud messages, not obvious messages, just small thoughts repeated often enough that they started to feel true. And that is where the deeper struggle began. Because sometimes the greatest burden is not what happened to you. Sometimes it is what you started believing because of what happened to you. I know the thoughts that have visited your mind during lonely moments. I know the quiet questions that rise when nobody else is around. Questions that sound like truth, but are actually rooted in fear. Questions that have slowly shaped the way you see yourself. Perhaps you began believing that you were forgotten, not completely forgotten by everyone, but somehow overlooked, left behind while others seemed to move forward. You watched doors open for other people while your own prayers appeared to linger in silence. You watched blessings arrive in the lives of others while your own heart continued waiting. And without meaning to, a thought slipped into your spirit. Maybe I have been forgotten. Maybe I no longer matter. Maybe nobody truly sees me. My child, I know how convincing that thought can become when carried long enough. Then there is another lie that often follows. The belief that you are not enough, not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough. You look at your mistakes and wonder if they define you. You look at your weaknesses and imagine they disqualify you. You compare yourself to others and feel as though you somehow fall short. And over time, self-doubt begins building a home inside your heart. You stop seeing yourself through grace and start seeing yourself through fear. You stop noticing your growth and only notice your flaws. You stop recognizing how far you have come because you remain focused on how far you think you still need to go. I know those thoughts, my child. I know how exhausting they are, because fear rarely arrives as a sudden storm. More often it arrives as a quiet voice that repeats itself day after day. A voice that says you will never change. A voice that says things will never get better. A voice that says you are too broken, too damaged, too late, or too far behind. And after hearing those whispers long enough, they begin sounding familiar. Familiar enough that you stop questioning them. Familiar enough that you mistake them for reality. But look carefully at what fear has done. It has caused you to question your worth. It has caused you to doubt your purpose. It has caused you to carry responsibility for things that were never yours to carry. It has caused you to believe that every delay means failure and every struggle means weakness. Yet none of those conclusions were born from truth. They were born from wounded places that needed compassion. They were born from seasons of uncertainty. They were born from emotional fatigue. I know there have been moments when you looked in the mirror and felt disappointment. Moments when you replayed old failures and wondered whether they would always follow you. Moments when you questioned whether you had missed your chance, whether the best parts of your life were already behind you, whether the future held anything different than the past. And the longer those thoughts remained unchallenged, the more natural they began to feel. But my child, I want you to notice something. These beliefs have not brought you peace. They have not brought you rest. They have not brought you freedom. They have only deepened the exhaustion already weighing upon your heart, because every time you believe you are forgotten, you carry loneliness that was never meant to be yours. Every time you believe you are not enough, you carry pressure that was never meant to define you. Every time you believe fear instead of hope, you add another layer to the burden you are already struggling to bear. And yet even now, as these hidden beliefs sit quietly beneath the surface, I see them. I see every fear. I see every doubt. I see every false conclusion you have made about yourself, not with judgment, not with disappointment, but with the tenderness of one who understands exactly how those wounds were formed. Because before healing can begin, the hidden lies must first be brought into the light. And my child, that is exactly what is happening now. And now, my child, after bringing those hidden fears into the light, I want you to see something that may surprise you. The way you see yourself and the way I see you are not always the same. In fact, many of the things that cause you the greatest pain come from looking at your life through a lens that was never meant to define you. You see weakness where I see endurance. You see failure where I see growth. You see delay where I see preparation. You see scars where I see evidence that you kept going when it would have been easier to quit. My child, you have spent so much time measuring yourself by what has not happened yet that you have overlooked what has already been happening within you. You look at the unfinished parts of your journey and assume nothing is changing. But I see changes you cannot yet see. I see strength that was formed during nights when you thought you were falling apart. I see wisdom that was born from experiences you never would have chosen. I see compassion growing in your heart because of the pain you have endured. I see resilience that did not exist years ago. I see a deeper faith taking root beneath the surface, even during seasons when you felt spiritually dry. You call yourself weak because you still struggle. I call you strong because you keep standing. You call yourself broken because some wounds still ache. I call you courageous because you continue moving forward while carrying those wounds. You call yourself lost because the path ahead is not fully visible. I call you guided because I have never stopped walking beside you. There are moments when you look at your life and focus only on what is missing. The opportunity that never arrived, the relationship that changed, the prayer that remains unanswered, the dream that seems distant. And because those things occupy your attention, you fail to notice the quiet work that has been taking place inside your heart. But my child, growth is often hidden before it becomes visible. A seed beneath the soil appears unchanged for a long time. Yet beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Life is expanding where no human eye can see it. In the same way, there have been seasons when you thought nothing was happening. Seasons when you wondered whether all your waiting had meaning. Seasons when you questioned whether your efforts mattered. Yet all along, unseen growth was taking place. You were learning perseverance. You were learning trust. You were learning how to keep your heart open, even after disappointment. You were becoming stronger in ways that cannot be measured by outward success. My child, you have judged yourself far too harshly. You have held yourself accountable for things beyond your control. You have blamed yourself for every setback. You have treated your weaknesses as proof that you are not enough. But I do not look at you through the eyes of condemnation. I do not define you by your worst day. I do not measure your worth by your performance. I do not count your value according to how many times you succeeded or failed. When I look at you, I see someone deeply loved. I see someone worth pursuing. I see someone who has survived more than they realize. I see someone whose story is still unfolding. I see hidden strength where you see exhaustion. I see unseen growth where you see stagnation. I see beauty developing beneath places that once felt barren. And perhaps the most important thing I want you to understand is this. The struggle you have been facing is not the whole story. The fear is not the whole story. The self-doubt is not the whole story. The disappointment is not the whole story. You have been looking at a single chapter and assuming it defines the entire book. But I see every page. I see every season. I see every lesson, every victory, every tear, every prayer, and every step forward, no matter how small it seemed. And when I look at your life, I do not see someone abandoned. I do not see someone forgotten. I do not see someone falling behind. I see my beloved child, still growing, still becoming, still being shaped by grace in ways far greater than you can imagine. And perhaps now, my child, you understand why the waiting has felt so confusing. Because when you are standing inside a waiting season, it is easy to believe that nothing is happening. It is easy to mistake stillness for absence. It is easy to assume that silence means you have been forgotten. Yet the truth is often very different from what it appears to be. I know there have been moments when you asked why. Why is it taking so long? Why has the answer not arrived? Why has the door not opened? Why does it seem like others are moving ahead while you remain in the same place? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are the questions of a weary heart trying to understand a process it cannot fully see. And that is why I want you to look at your life through a different lens. Consider a seed placed beneath the soil. The moment it disappears underground, it appears as though nothing is happening. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even longer. The surface remains unchanged. To the human eye, there is no evidence of growth, no evidence of movement, no evidence that anything meaningful is taking place. Yet beneath the surface, an extraordinary process has already begun. The seed is not abandoned. The seed is not forgotten. The seed is not failing. It is developing roots. It is preparing for what comes next. My child, there have been seasons when your life looked exactly like that seed beneath the soil. You looked around and saw no visible progress. You saw unanswered prayers, delayed opportunities, unfinished dreams. You saw yourself standing in the same place while the future seemed distant. But what you could not see was the hidden work taking place beneath the surface. While you were waiting, roots were growing. While you were questioning, strength was forming. While you were wondering whether I was near, I was quietly preparing parts of your heart that would one day support blessings too heavy for shallow roots to carry. You see, many people desire the fruit, but resist the process. They desire the harvest, but dislike the season beneath the soil. Yet every season serves a purpose. Spring does not arrive without winter. Harvest does not arrive without growth. Maturity does not arrive without time. And some of the things you have been praying for require a deeper foundation than you realize. If I had given certain things too early, they might have become burdens instead of blessings. If some doors had opened before your roots were ready, the very thing you desired could have overwhelmed you. This is why waiting is not punishment. Waiting is preparation. Waiting is not evidence of rejection. Waiting is evidence of process. Waiting is not proof that nothing is happening. Often it is proof that something important is happening where you cannot yet see it. My child, I know how difficult that can be to accept, especially when your heart is tired, especially when you have carried hopes for a long time, especially when you have prayed and still find yourself waiting. But even now, I want you to remember that seasons are temporary. Winter does not remain forever. The seed does not stay buried forever. The roots do not remain hidden forever. There comes a moment when what was developing in secret begins to emerge into the light. There comes a moment when growth becomes visible. There comes a moment when the purpose of the waiting begins to make sense. And although you may not yet see that moment clearly, it is closer than you think. Every lesson has mattered. Every prayer has mattered. Every step has mattered. Every season has carried purpose, even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones. Because while you were focused on the passage of time, I was focused on the formation of your heart. While you were measuring the delay, I was cultivating growth. While you were wondering whether anything was changing, I was strengthening roots that will support you for years to come. So do not despise this season, my child. Do not assume that because something has taken longer than expected, it has lost its purpose. The waiting season has never been empty. It has always been full of preparation, process, and growth. And even now, beneath everything you can currently see, something beautiful is still unfolding. And while something beautiful has been unfolding beneath the surface, my child, there is another question that deserves an answer. If the waiting has not been empty, then who are you becoming through it? This is where many people miss the deeper miracle. They spend so much time looking for changes around them that they fail to recognize the transformation taking place within them. Yet some of the most important things I create are not built in a single moment. They are formed gradually, quietly, through experiences that shape the heart over time. Think about the person you were before these difficult seasons began. Think about the way you once viewed challenges, disappointment, uncertainty, and delay. Then think about the person you are becoming now. You may not feel different every day. You may not notice the changes while they are happening. But growth often feels ordinary while it is taking place, and extraordinary when you look back. There is wisdom growing inside you, not the kind that comes from books alone, but the kind that comes from walking through real life, the kind that comes from learning what truly matters, the kind that teaches you to see beyond appearances and focus on what has lasting value. The wisdom being formed within you allows you to recognize things you once overlooked. It allows you to approach life with greater understanding. It allows you to see people with deeper compassion because you now understand what it feels like to carry burdens that nobody else can see. And alongside wisdom, resilience has been growing as well. You may not always feel resilient. There have been days when you felt fragile, overwhelmed, and uncertain. Yet resilience is not the absence of struggle. Resilience is the decision to keep moving forward even when the road feels difficult. Every challenge you faced without giving up added another layer of strength to your character. Every setback you survived proved that you are stronger than your fears told you. Every season you endured developed a stability that could not have been formed any other way. There is also patience being shaped within you. I know patience is rarely celebrated while it is being learned. In fact, it often feels uncomfortable. It feels slow. It feels frustrating. Yet patience creates a depth within the soul that quick solutions never can. Patience teaches you how to trust the process without needing to control every outcome. It teaches you how to remain steady while life unfolds one step at a time. It teaches you that not every answer arrives immediately, and not every blessing appears according to your preferred timeline. Then there is compassion. My child, some of the tenderness developing within your heart could only be formed through what you have experienced. The pain you have carried has given you the ability to understand the pain of others. The disappointments you have faced have made you gentler toward people carrying their own disappointments. The struggles you have endured have expanded your capacity to offer grace instead of judgment. You are becoming someone capable of bringing comfort because you understand what it feels like to need comfort. You are becoming someone capable of extending patience because you have learned how much patience is required during difficult seasons. What is being built inside you is more valuable than you realize. The world often celebrates visible achievements, but the deepest transformation happens within the heart. Character is being formed. Perspective is being refined. Emotional strength is being developed. Your ability to remain hopeful is becoming stronger. Your ability to endure uncertainty is becoming greater. Your capacity for wisdom, resilience, patience, and compassion is expanding with every season you walk through. And one day, my child, you will look back and realize that the person emerging from this season is not the same person who entered it. Not because everything around you changed overnight, but because something inside you matured. Something inside you deepened. Something inside you became stronger, steadier, and more prepared for what lies ahead. The process has not merely been shaping your circumstances, it has been shaping you. And the person being formed through this journey is far more remarkable than you can currently see. And now, my child, after everything you have heard, after everything you have carried, after all the questions that have followed you through this season, a simple question remains. What do you do now? Not next year. Not when every answer becomes clear. Not when every burden disappears. What do you do today? The answer is not as complicated as you may think. You do not need to force the future into place. You do not need to carry responsibilities that were never placed upon your shoulders. You do not need to solve every uncertainty before taking your next step. What I am inviting you into is something far gentler and far deeper. I am inviting you to let go. There are things you have been gripping so tightly that your heart has become exhausted from holding them. Old disappointments, old fears, old expectations, old versions of yourself. You have carried them for so long that they began to feel like part of your identity. But my child, not everything that has traveled with you belongs in the season ahead. Some things were meant to teach you and then be released. Some things were meant to strengthen you and then be surrendered. Some things were meant to pass through your life, not remain there forever. This is why I am asking you to loosen your grip. Let go of the belief that you must control every outcome. Let go of the fear that everything depends on your own strength. Let go of the constant pressure to have every answer. Let go of the expectation that you must carry tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. You were never created to live beneath that weight, and there is something else I am inviting you to do. Forgive. Not because what happened was acceptable, not because your pain was insignificant, not because your wounds were imaginary. Forgive because bitterness continues to ask your heart to carry what should have been released long ago. Forgive because your future deserves more space than your resentment. Forgive because healing often begins where holding on finally ends. I know forgiveness can feel difficult. I know there are moments when the hurt feels justified. But forgiveness is not pretending the pain never existed. It is choosing not to let that pain become the author of your future. It is opening your hands and allowing what wounded you to lose its power over your heart. And beyond letting go and forgiving, I am inviting you to surrender. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is trust. It is the quiet decision to stop fighting battles that were never yours to win alone. It is the willingness to place your fears, your uncertainties, your disappointments, and your future into hands greater than your own. It is not giving up. It is giving over. There is a difference. Giving up is rooted in hopelessness. Surrender is rooted in faith. Giving up says nothing can change. Surrender says, I do not need to carry this alone anymore. And finally, my child, trust. Trust does not require perfect certainty. Trust does not require complete understanding. Trust begins with a simple choice. The choice to take one step forward even when you cannot see the entire road. The choice to believe that purpose still exists in places that remain unclear. The choice to rest your heart instead of constantly striving. The choice to move through this season with open hands rather than clenched fists. You do not need to become someone else before taking this step. You do not need to be stronger than you are. You do not need to have every fear removed. All that is required in this moment is willingness. A willingness to let go. A willingness to forgive. A willingness to surrender. A willingness to trust. Because the next chapter of your journey does not begin with more pressure. It begins with release. It begins with a heart that no longer carries everything alone. It begins with a decision that may seem small today but will change far more than you realize. And when a heart begins to let go, forgive, surrender, and trust, something remarkable starts to happen. The future no longer appears as a wall standing in front of you. It begins to look like a doorway. My child, I know there have been times when you looked ahead and saw only uncertainty. You tried to imagine what comes next and found more questions than answers. You searched the horizon hoping for clarity and instead found fog. Yet I want you to understand something important. The fact that you cannot fully see the future does not mean there is nothing waiting for you there. Some of the most beautiful chapters of life begin before a person can recognize them. A new chapter rarely announces itself with certainty. It often begins quietly. It begins with a healed perspective. It begins with a restored heart. It begins with a small step forward. You have spent so much time focused on surviving that it may be difficult to imagine what thriving looks like. You have carried burdens for so long that peace may feel unfamiliar. You have lived through seasons of waiting for so long that opportunity may seem distant. But do not mistake unfamiliarity for impossibility. There are possibilities ahead that you cannot yet see. There are conversations that have not yet happened. There are doors you have not yet approached. There are friendships you have not yet formed. There are lessons that will bring unexpected joy. There are moments of laughter that will arrive after seasons of tears. There are answers that will make sense of questions you carry today. Not every answer will arrive all at once. Not every breakthrough will happen overnight. But life is not standing still, my child. The story is still moving forward. Restoration often happens in ways people do not expect. Sometimes restoration is not getting back exactly what was lost. Sometimes restoration is discovering something deeper, healthier, and more meaningful than what existed before. Sometimes restoration is finding strength where weakness once lived. Sometimes restoration is finding peace where anxiety once ruled. Sometimes restoration is finding purpose where confusion once remained. The future holds opportunities for growth that your present perspective cannot fully imagine. There are gifts hidden within coming seasons. There are experiences that will reveal how much you have matured. There are moments when you will look back and realize that the person you are becoming today is preparing you for opportunities tomorrow. The resilience being formed within you will serve a purpose. The patience you have learned will serve a purpose. The wisdom growing inside you will serve a purpose. The compassion developing in your heart will serve a purpose. Nothing meaningful has been wasted. Even the difficult seasons have contributed something valuable to the person you are becoming. My child, do not allow fear to convince you that your best days are behind you. Do not allow disappointment to persuade you that nothing good remains ahead. The future is not a repetition of every painful chapter you have already lived through. New chapters exist. New beginnings exist. New opportunities exist. Fresh joy exists. Deeper peace exists. Greater clarity exists. And while I am not asking you to predict every detail of what lies ahead, I am inviting you to remain open to possibility. Remain open to growth. Remain open to restoration. Remain open to hope. There is a difference between expecting perfection and expecting purpose. Life will still contain challenges. There will still be moments that require faith. But there is also beauty ahead. There is also healing ahead. There is also unexpected goodness waiting in places you cannot yet see. One day you will stand further down the road and realize that this season was not the ending you feared. It was a transition. It was preparation. It was the beginning of a chapter that had not yet revealed itself. And when that realization comes, you will understand that even when the future was hidden from your eyes, hope was already quietly growing in the distance. And now, my child, as this moment gently comes to a close, I do not want you to leave carrying pressure. I do not want you to leave carrying fear. I do not want you to leave carrying the same weight that followed you into this conversation. Instead, I want you to carry something different. I want you to carry peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on perfect circumstances. Not the temporary peace that disappears the moment life becomes difficult, but the deeper peace that settles quietly within the heart and remains even when questions still exist. Remember what you have learned along this journey. The burden was real, but it was not the whole story. The waiting was difficult, but it was not empty. The struggle was painful, but it was not meaningless. The uncertainty was uncomfortable, but it was not evidence that your life lacked direction. There was purpose where you saw delay. There was growth where you saw stillness. There was preparation where you saw silence. And there was hope growing beneath the surface long before you could recognize it. My child, when difficult thoughts return, remember that your present circumstances do not define your future. When fear tries to speak louder than faith, remember that fear is not the author of your story. When self-doubt attempts to convince you that you are not enough, remember that growth is not measured by perfection but by the courage to continue moving forward. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to carry tomorrow before it arrives. You do not need to force open doors that are not yet ready to open. You only need to keep taking the next faithful step. One step, then another, then another. That is how every meaningful journey unfolds. As you move forward from this moment, may your heart become lighter. May your thoughts become gentler. May your spirit find rest from the constant need to control every outcome. May wisdom continue growing within you. May resilience continue strengthening you. May patience continue steadying you. May compassion continue softening your heart. And may hope continue shining even in places where certainty has not yet arrived. There will be days ahead when you feel strong and days when you feel weary. Days when the path seems clear and days when questions return. Yet through every season, remember this truth. Your life is not standing still. Your story is not finished. Your growth is not invisible. And your future is not empty. Something meaningful has been taking shape within you all along. So breathe deeply, my child. Release what no longer belongs on your shoulders. Let your heart rest. Let your soul become still. Let peace settle where worry once lived. Let trust remain where fear once lingered. Carry this with you after this moment ends. You do not have to know every detail of the road ahead to walk forward with hope. One day you will look back and see that even the seasons you struggled to understand were helping shape something beautiful. Until then, keep moving forward with a quiet heart, an open spirit, and a steady hope. And may peace go with you, remain with you, and rest upon you wherever the next step leads. Remember this, my child. What feels unfinished today is not forgotten. It is still becoming.